guys think?
All right, everyone, thank you for coming to the second edition of Hall of Fame. And I am going to allow my boss, Mr. Rico, to do the opening remarks.
Thank you, Corinne. And the big hand is for that lady. She arranges this, she makes it happen. Right, folks? Thank you. And I'm not going to do a lot of opening remarks because, we have Jason, JR, and Kayla here. Thank you for coming. We're here to honor you. They'll tell you, they'll fill in the details. And if they forget to fill in any details, I'm going to get up and remind everyone. Like if they're too shy to say, I graduated with honors, I'm going to get up and say, hey, do you know they graduated with honors? Or something like that, right? So we fill in the details for them. And I think we've probably got a lot of people in the room that know these fine people even better than I do. So if you've got some details to fill in, please do. We'd love to hear about all the great things they do. They're all accomplished. They're all diverse, right? But one thing they share with us is the Hoboken Housing Authority. It's the one thing they share. And I'm proud to be here representing the Housing Authority because the Housing Authority does great things for people. We hear the problems, we hear the complaints, we've got 70-year-old buildings, we know that. But we give people places to live. We give people places to raise their children. And their lives were touched by the Housing Authority, and it's made them what they are today. Did it happen without a struggle? Let me ask. Did it happen without a struggle?
No, absolutely not.
Absolutely not. Did you folks have to rise to the occasion and make it happen?
Every single time.
Did you have help from the community?
Yes, you did.
Yes, you did, right? But it doesn't happen without people working. And I'm so proud of these three fine people we have in front of us today because that's the key, right? And that's the definition of heroes. The definition of a hero, as I think I've said before, is somebody that reaches a challenge, they struggle, they go through this and that, and Odysseus and everything, they go through all this. But the last thing is they always come back. They always come back. They don't just leave and say, so what to everyone, whether they come back in another community and help folks like they grew up with, or whether they come back to your own community, they always come back to help. And these people are here coming back, so they meet the definition of that hero. Because we're more than just bricks and mortar, folks. We're much more than just bricks and mortar. We're a spirit. We're resolve. We are that struggle. We are that improvement. We are that place that people can take that moment and look at themselves and improve their lives. And our three folks here tonight show us just that. We are proud, very proud, to add them to our HHA Hall of Fame. Let's get another round of applause for them.
Thank you, Mr. Rico. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker, Jason Blanks. He's a football and basketball coach. So Jason was born and raised in Andrew Jackson Garden from the late Rinda and Benjamin Blanks, and he's the younger of 6 children. He's also a husband, a father of 3, Jason Jr., Isaiah, and Samaya. In 2003, he was named Athlete of the Year by Hudson County. He later went to Sussex County Community College to play baseball, then transferred to William Patterson to play. Jason has also been inducted into the Hoboken Demaris High School Hall of Fame in 2018. He was also nominated for Dunkin' Donuts Coach of the Year and won a grand prize of $10,000.
Yes.
He is still a resident of Hoboken, where he has been coaching football and basketball for the past 13 years. He's been teaching kids how to grow and be great student athletes. Can we put our hands together for Mr. Jason?
First off, I want to thank Thank you guys for everything. It takes a village. It was tough growing up, 10 years of my life without my dad, know what I mean, for what he did as far as that, everybody know about that, but mom raising 6, living in the projects, I mean, it was tough. She steered us church, I got most of my beatings on Sunday because I tried not to go to church, but definitely had us go to church every Sunday. Just keep God first. Playing football, basketball, and baseball here in Hoboken was the best thing that ever happened to me. We as a group, like guys that I grew up with, we stuck together. It's kind of different now. We're trying to make it better because we broke bones, shed tears, blood, tears, sweat, everything together. And we went to high school together, and now it's kind of changing. Everybody wants to go to other schools instead of staying here. And that's why I try to stay focused and remain focused, especially with my little ones, with my kids, just to have them go to the school, play here, and just show people that Hoboken is where it is. I mean, you don't have to go nowhere else, because a lot of kids, what they do is they go somewhere else and they don't even play. Now they lose interest where they could help here. And that's what I want to continue to do and see if we could get more guys here and just bring Hoboken back to where we used to win championships and everybody just loved each other and just played together and just worked hard. And if it wasn't for HHA, I mean, I don't know where I'd be, to be honest. My sophomore year, I was going through a little something, not having my dad around, and it kind of cost me my junior year, not because of, not to say politics, everybody will say politics now, but because I didn't play my sophomore year, I almost steered into the wrong direction. So by just talking to the right people, being around the right people, family, loved ones, high school sweetheart, I decided to just, put all that stuff behind me and start over. So my junior year, that's when I put the most work in. And then my senior year, all my accomplishments happened. I mean, I went from athlete of the year of the whole county in 03, all county in 03 sports, and that right there, I just bring it into my coaching. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. And that's what I preach about. And again, thank you.
Thank you. Proud of you, man. Good job.
Thank you so much, and I like that. It's not where you start, it's where you finish. It's the end that matters. Thank you so much for your powerful testimony. I'm about to introduce my second speaker, John Rodley Lynch, basketball coach. So Gerald Lynch was born and raised here in Hoboken to Madeline Gonzalez and John Lynch. He graduated from Houston Catholic Regional High School and from the University of Hartford with a master's degree in business. In 2023, he won the national championship with UConn, the University of Connecticut men's basketball. He currently serves as the assistant men's basketball coach of Manhattan College. Can we give him a round of applause?
First and foremost, I want to thank you for having me. It's always an honor to come back, especially where you're born and raised and to speak, right? Because when it's all said and done, you do these things to inspire. Like the ultimate goal is to inspire the youth and to let them know like it doesn't matter where you come from. Like you can do whatever you put your mind to, and that's kind of what I do every day. Every time I wake up, my goal is to make an impact on whoever it is, and I kind of get that from my mom, right? If everybody knows who Madeline Gonzalez is, she gives her shirt off her back for anyone, and growing up, I seen that, right? And as a son, that's inspiring, right? You don't want your mom to struggle. You want to give her the world, and you can't ever pay her back, right? There's no such thing as paying her back. So the way you do that is by doing your best every day. I tell everybody this. When I was a youngster, I'm still young, but when I was in Wallace School, I was a bad kid. You know, I was a kid, run out of school, get chased by cops. I was in the principal's office throwing papers off the desk. Yeah, that was me, right? And I'm proud to say it because it's like Jason said, it's not where you started, it's where you finish, right? And that's pretty much a little bit about who I am. And then kind of the journey became like the love, the passion to play sports was my getaway, right? When you think about living in inner city, the one thing that we all gain is that survival. You know, we know how to survive, and that's one thing that I think the housing authority has done for me. Right, is I can be in any situation and survive. Right, because I've seen it, and then everyone knows everyone. Right, so if you need help, someone's there, and you never feel like you're by yourself. And that's one thing I can sit here and say, like, throughout my journey, the reason why I'm here today is because of the people that supported me. Like, I could literally every step of the way name someone that has made an impact on my life. And my grandfather, he says this all the time. He says, like, there's golden nuggets that will live on forever. There's those key moments in life that you can always look back and be like, you know what, I went through this, or this person said this, or I've gone through this situation, so I'm gonna be okay. And I think that's the most important thing is to understand, like, through this journey, there's ups, there's downs, but the most important thing is to keep going, because that's what your mom would do, your mom would want, that's what your dad would want, that's what your siblings would want, and to remember, like, this journey is not about you, and the moment you try to put it to make it about you, you lose. You know what I'm saying? Because it has nothing to do about you. It's everything about inspiring the next person. You know, the goal is, I don't want to be the best. I want someone else to be better than me, right? And how do you do that? And you kind of lay a foundation. Like a person who kind of me growing up looking up to was my brother. Right? I used to go to my brother's games. I used to dribble basketballs. Like the one game I remember vividly, it was a home game at Hoboken High. He's on the free throw line. He friggin' makes 2 free throws. He cramps up. He falls. And I remember that vividly. Right? And I was always looked at like, man, I want to be that. Right? So he set that foundation for me. Right? And then going to my siblings. Then Sybil, she was the first to graduate from college. Right, so I had people in my circle that were striving to be great, and I just been fortunate enough to accomplish some amazing things. But none of that matters because it's the people that you're surrounded with, right? Those people, they believed in me. They put their heart and soul into everything, and that's something that I could never repay, right? So the way I do that is by doing whatever it takes every day to give it back to the next person, right? Because it has nothing to do with me. So like Jason said, man, like Hoboken Housing Authority has been that, right? They supported me through the journey. Yes, I went to Hudson Catholic, but there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't think I was supported in any decisions I made throughout my life. So thank you.
Thank you. It was very empowering, very selfless, and we could hear that you were inspired because you were also inspired to begin with, right? And this is what we want to do with this initiative, having you as mentors to inspire the next generation. So can we give him another round of applause? So the next speaker I'm going to introduce is Kayla Ferment. She's a legislative correspondent. She was born and raised here in Hoboken, and from a young age, her parents instilled in her the importance of education, community, and sacrifice. Growing up under financially restricting circumstances and attending Title I schools allowed Kayla to develop an awareness for the inequality and injustices of her community. Luckily, this led her to develop a passion for advocacy and policy early in her childhood. Attending an esteemed collegiate institution was a dream of hers that seems unattainable for a woman like her. Nonetheless, with the support of her community, family, and friends, Kayla went on to pursue a BA in Human Services and Social Justice at George Washington University. Following her collegiate career, Kayla was selected as a United Food and Commercial Workers Public Policy Fellow for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute and worked for Congressman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. During her time with CHCI, Kayla worked on a variety of priority policy areas and achieved huge legislative wins for constituents in New York 14. Kayla now works as a legislative correspondent for Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, where she's able to continue to fulfill her passion of creating innovative policies that will liberate the communities that raise her. Please give a round of applause for Kayla.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. It's such an incredible feeling to see so many familiar faces out in the crowd today, and some new ones that I hope and I have the pleasure to meet. Just in general, it feels so good to be home. As you've heard, I've lived in Washington, D.C. for the past 6 years, so I try to come back as much as often as I can, and as much as work permits, but every time I'm home, it just feels so lovely, so incredible, so inspiring. I'd like to first start off by thanking Corinne and the Hoboken Housing Authority for creating an incredible legacy of excellence in a community that produces resilient and talented individuals. It is a true honor to sit shoulder to shoulder with these two hometown heroes tonight.
Yes.
And just for that, I'd like to get one more round of applause for JR and Jason.
Yes.
Maya Angelou once said, "You can't really know where you're going until you understand where you've been." Just like many of you, I was born in Hoboken, but I was raised by the Hoboken Projects. I make that distinction because the Hoboken Projects were unique in a way where we cultivated community and we built family. We really raised each other. In the face of constant adversity like unemployment, poverty, houselessness, hunger, and violence, all members of the community, young and old, would look out for each other, respect each other, and come together in times of need. My grandmother, Noelia Perez, a single mother of 10, was a perfect example of how community was built. Back when we lived in 220 Harrison, which is just behind us, our family and community lovingly referred to my grandmother's apartment as everybody's house. To no surprise, this name was given to the apartment because my grandmother housed and fed so many children within the community and let them know that there was always a safe place to land in her apartment. I distinctly remember going on compra runs with my cousins to grab a couple loaves of Italian bread, some cold cuts, the 2-liter Pepsis that were so cheap back in the day, from Big Banners, which rest in peace, Big Banners. Now, beautiful high-rise building, but I would prefer Big Banners. And people would come in and out of her house leaving such love, such laughter, such happiness, and such incredible and inspiring stories. Eventually, these strangers that would come in and out of her house became the people who showed up for me and cheered me on along my journey. When things got hard, when things were rough, when I was achieving some of my goals, and sometimes when I wasn't, just to speak life into me. The impression my community left on me prepared me to move in spaces of power with one saying in mind that allowed me to be successful. Juntos somos más. Together we are more. Our society forces us, low-income people of color, to believe in a scarcity mindset, which means if you don't have it, if you have it, then I don't have it. And if I have it, then you don't have it. That same mentality is what has created such a divide in our community, where there is constant competition and a constant need to step on someone in order to get to where you need to be. I want to let you know that it keeps us distracted so that the people in power can make moves against us without us knowing. Things are happening right under our noses without us seeing it because we're feuding with each other instead of coming together like we used to. I am living proof that with the support of a bonded community, you can rise to higher heights. I was born in the old school projects where everyone was together, where everyone was looking out for someone's kid. Even the parents that weren't your parents were raising you in the park, or when they seen you going to the store. If they saw you doing something bad, they'd be like, watch out, I'll tell your mother. All the time. After constantly sorry about that. From a young age, my parents and my grandmother, Migdalia Perez, instilled in me the importance of education, community, and sacrifice. Upon graduating high school, I grew fearful of what would be next for me. Would I be able to afford college? Would going to college put my family in extreme debt? Will there ever be a day where I see my community liberated from the injustices that we face every single day? After constantly wondering about the what ifs, I had to stop and think about, okay, what now? My junior year, I applied for every scholarship imaginable. My mom and I worked tirelessly to apply for opportunities with the FAFSA and financial aid to ensure that I could get to college. And after a few acceptances and a lot of really hard rejections, I decided to pursue my education at the George Washington University in Washington, D.C., where I received a full presidential scholarship to attend. So, my family made sacrifices for me so that I could break the generational curses they were unable to because of the restrictions of the times that they were raised in. So I confidently stand here today and let you know that my education saved my life, because had I not pursued school so heavily, had I not really kept my head in the books, I don't know where my path would have led, I don't know what I would have gotten involved in, and I don't know what would have influenced my mindset. And this allowed my family to be in a position as well to take a step closer to freedom and liberation, as we have more people working and fighting for generational wealth, working and fighting to, get our bills paid, cancel out that debt. People think the road to success is easy. They think we just sit here without having a struggle story, that we had it easy along the way, that we were talented and we were lucky. They romanticize hard work as a pathway to success. However, when I'm asked about my journey, I tell the truth. The greater the glory, the more intense the story. My first year of college, my grades were horrible. I went from being a straight A student to receiving D's in final grades. My room and board was expensive, books were expensive, living in DC was so expensive, so I was working 3 jobs throughout all 4 years of college. I had teachers who were discriminating against me based off the color of my skin. Wow. Students who wouldn't even sit next to me in class, as I was the only woman of color occupying these spaces. And I would often have to compete with privileged students who had more access and pull than I did. And this is the part where people usually give up and their story ends. But God had a different plan for me. And that's why I'm so blessed and grateful for my faith.
Amen. Amen.
God said to me, I can bless you in every aspect of your life, but you are the steward of your blessings. Only you can make them count, so now show me what you can do with them. After that awakening, I sacrificed my social life to get extra tutoring. I involve myself in leadership positions on campus to help first-generation college students like me navigate their blessings. And I would even go as far as calling people in seats of power to have conversations so that they can tell me how they got there. I never had a roadmap. Many of us didn't have a roadmap of how to get to the top and how to achieve our dreams and be able to live out our passions. But part of the hard work is getting out there, getting rejections, hearing no, hearing people tell you the things that you don't want to hear. So I had to sell myself to these people in these high places and let them know that I was worth betting on. I was worth investing in, and I was worth the journey that it took to get me to where I am today. And part of doing that, part of betting on yourself, is believing that you're worthy and you're capable of getting to these high heights, which is something that's not easy, especially coming from where we come from. Imposter syndrome on the way up is really tough to deal with. We're constantly thinking, am I enough to be in these spaces? Am I worthy of being in these rooms? Am I smart enough to speak up right now? And the answer is yes, because what those people have that don't have that we have is experience. Rich, struggling experiences that have raised us, that have instilled morals in us. That's more than education can ever get you. Eventually, my voice soared in rooms where I was once ignored. I received respect from individuals I once looked up to, and eventually I landed a job in Congress at only 22 years old. Imagine a young girl who lived in 310 Jackson, apartment 3102, who graduated from Hoboken High, would go to a prestigious collegiate institution and work for some of the largest names in politics right now, like Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
Yes.
My boss, my sister in service, the illustrious Ayanna Pressley, has this saying every time she gives a speech, and I learn everything that I know from her. She's an incredible human being. She says that those closest to the pain should be closest to the power. Our community and the past year alone has experienced so much devastating pain, and I know we all feel it in this room today. The absence of those who were once with us, the pillars of our community who really worked to take us to where we are today. We think about you, may you rest in peace and power, and you're always in our hearts. In times like these, it's important that we heal our wounds and we get our power back. And we can do that by sticking together, by organizing and mobilizing, by sharing our stories, and the wealth of education and knowledge and opportunities. Putting each other on is so important in this time. So I leave you with this. I am always a resource to you all. I got to where I am only so that I can continue to give back to my community, so I can learn everything that there is to learn about politics, so I can liberate my family, so that we no longer have to struggle, so that we can see a day where we're on top as well and we're not counted out of the conversation. So I thank you so much for this incredible honor, and I will continue to make my community proud and eventually move back home and bring my talents to the place where it started.
And for all three who's standing up. That was so powerful by all three of you. Thank you. You bring a tear to my eye. Absolutely. How inspirational. We talked tonight more than I've ever heard about family and community, right? But how it's not done alone. Now, for those of you that are family by blood or family, you know who you are. By family, even if you're not blood, you're family, right? You know who you are. Could you please stand? Those of you that are family by blood and or by relation. And I'd like such a round of applause for everyone that's helped everybody. And what can you say about JR's mama, right? Right? Put your hand up, right? Yeah. Fantastic, fantastic. How inspirational, correct? All yours.
Thank you. Very, very inspirational. Can we give him another?
Yes.
It's funny that all the narrative tonight tied back to having a good family support. This morning I was talking to my friend and I was telling her that when I was in school I was very average. And I would have never imagined to have actually reached the height that I'm reaching right now if it wasn't for my mom that was always encouraging me and believing in me. Imagine a little girl from Africa, West Africa. My first language is French. You can hear it in my speech, right? Coming here, studying, and having an advanced degree. Like, the only person that believed in myself was my mom.
Yes.
So family is very, very important. So I would encourage every family member here to actually believe in your children, because that makes a difference in their lives. Because you have teachers that may not believe in your children because they're different. You have friends that may not believe in your children because they're different. But when they go home and they hear that, oh, you're smart, even if you don't have the best grades. You are good, even if they don't have the best grade. You are beautiful, even if they look average. It does make a difference. If you look at my grade when I was in primary school, I had like C's and D's, and I was really trying to make it. But today when I look back, the only person that actually encouraged me to strive was my mom. She was always telling me, wow, you're smart. When I wasn't that smart, right? So,
she was right.
So just keep on encouraging your children, and that will really make a difference in their lives. And I have a question for you. When I first started here, what really prompted me to put this together was a comment. We had a meet and greet. And one lady said, we don't have enough opportunities for our children. And that is the reason why our children here. And that is the reason why they resort to drug and violence. And that comment really struck with me, and I was like, that cannot be right. That cannot be true. And here we have examples of people that did not resort to drug or violence. What tip can you give to this audience or to the future generation, the next generation? How were you able to make it in this environment? And this is open to all three of you.
The number one thing I would say is surround yourself by people that want better. I think everything I've accomplished, and I said this earlier, is because of the people that I was surrounded by. They saw something that I didn't see. Because there was times where I wanted to give up, there was times where I wanted to quit, but they didn't allow me, right? Because they seen that potential, they seen something in me that I didn't see in myself. So I think the most important thing is to surround yourself with people that want more. There's a saying, like, if you surround yourself with 6 billionaires, you're the next one, right? So just surround yourself with good people, and it naturally just attracts, like, that energy, the opportunities. Like, it's funny because when you look at someone, or you look at myself, and you're like, man, like, how did you get to where you got to? And it's like, it like kind of happened overnight, but it didn't, right? You surround yourself by these people, and they put you in position to be successful. And like, literally, like I said, like, my success, anything I accomplished, has been because I did right by somebody. They were willing to put my name on the line, and I gained that trust from that person. That person was willing to talk for me, and that's why I sit here today, and in a very fortunate situation, right? Because, like you said, like, there's so many distractions, there's so many things that can kind of get you off track, but when you have those people that are just feeding in positive affirmation and continue to push you to be that person that you can be, that's it. Like, just surround yourself by people that want more.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well,
So JR said a valid point, but also it is, as parents, we fail, because I feel as though, like, I see a lot of people, and I see a lot of parents, and they just giving up. They giving up on their child, or giving up on, just like I said earlier, the village. It takes a village. So if we all, as a community, just be there like it used to be. It used to be that way. Now it's like everybody just branching off. You got new people. Like, I go when we have practice or my daughter's games, kids' game, boys' games, and it's like, you look around and the old Hoboken is gone. The old Hoboken is gone. Like, I don't know nobody no more. Like, seriously. Like, we, like, used to walk and I used to get, like, because I let my kids, like, go outside, play. Like, you gotta get the crazies out before you bust a hole through the wall or something. So, and now it's not, yeah, definitely get charged. But now you can't do that as much because there's a lot of crazies. There's definitely a lot of crazies, and people will turn their back instead of stepping up and, yo, what are you doing? You don't do that. Like, everybody turns their back, and we need more people it's no nosy people. Like, everybody needs to do the right thing, like, and just be there. Don't give up on your child. Like, kids that I coach, like, I go to their game, like, I coach the youth. So the high school games, I'm there. Whether my kids playing, well, now I got my son playing at the high school level, because my oldest in college, playing football. But I go to the games to support, and the kids that I coach, they come up to me, coach, and I tell them, yo, look, you did this wrong. You did this wrong. Like, just to encourage them, like, look, all right, where you going now? All right, go home. You don't need, there's nothing out here. You just can't turn your back on them. That's how I feel. As parents, we just got to get that village back.
If I can add just one more thing, I would also instill in children that normalize the idea of not fitting in. Normalize the idea of not going by the status quo. I think something that we see a lot happening with children is they just want to do what their friends are doing. They want to follow the crowd instead of stand out. I was the type of person where I was school, sports, home. And that lost me a lot of friendships. I saw my friends going to parties. I was wishing I could go. Mommy was not letting me. Like, I was at home like that. But standing out and not being part of the status quo is what got me to where I'm at. I wasn't involved in the things that some of my friends were involved in, and I think that's because of the better. But when I say go against the status quo, I also mean occupying space. That's not something that they teach us to do. They don't teach people of color to occupy space. They allow people who are higher up to occupy space, come into our space and occupy that space. But they don't encourage us to go out there and seek opportunities that are open, supposed to be open for the community, but we only see one type of person going there. Bring your kids to that. Bring yourselves to that. Get into those conversations because your voice is important. I think that's something that I'm learning to do. Is definitely hard when your whole life you've been socialized to stay in a corner, to stay in one project your whole life and live in that, in happiness and bliss, which it is. It's comfort, it's family, but eventually we need to go against that and branch out and see what else is out there in the world, and we do that by occupying space and going against the status quo.
Wow.
And I had another question for Kayla. As a woman of color, how were you able to face the hurdles that that await you when you reach higher circles? How were you able to deal with that?
So in the beginning, it was very difficult. I'll speak it plainly. I was constantly in white spaces where people didn't understand my experience or where I came from. They just saw what they saw on the outside. So for a little bit of time, I did fall into that. I assimilated. My hair was always straight. I wore certain types of clothes. I spoke a certain type of way. So much so to the point that when I would come home to Jersey, my friends would be like, "Why do you sound like that? You sound so weird." And when I would go back to DC from Jersey, they would be like, "Why is your accent so heavy?" So it was a constant playing of code switching until I realized that my true power is my story. And so when I come into these spaces, I no longer look at these people as, while they're judging me for who I am, I look at them as an equal, as a peer. Because the same experiences that you're bringing to the table that you feel make you qualified are the same things that make me qualified. I defied, society, and I dare to be different. I dare to show up in these spaces and speak up against people because that's what my family always showed me to do. They told me never to stay shut to anyone, and that applied to the playground in the park, all the way up to Congress. They showed me how to defend myself, how to be a self-advocate, and eventually I stopped caring. I started showing up to Congress with ones on. I have my Yankee Bomber jacket. Sometimes I'll come in with a hat, and people admire me for my authenticity. Because what you don't see in spaces of power are people who are being authentically themselves. You're seeing individuals who are on a power trip, trying to build their status, but losing parts of themselves along the way. A lot of people in my life told me, don't get into politics, it's not worth it, it'll change you. And you know, I live to prove people wrong. So that's kind of how I occupy those spaces, but I will also say it's partly community. In all of those spaces, you'll find one other Latina, you'll find one other Black woman, and that's a person you make friends with, so that when times are hard, when the institutions are working as they were designed to work, you rely on each other to get through the day.
Fantastic.
I have one question for you, Jason. You said you labeled a father that wasn't present. I mean, you labeled a father that wasn't present. If you were to give an advice to someone that were in the same situation right now, what type of advice would you give that person?
Well, I had a strong Black mother, and that right there was enough. Kids don't get enough beatings. That's what it is. I'm serious. I'm being honest. And I'm like, it's about discipline. It's about discipline. Everybody want to take stuff away, this and that. Yeah, that's okay, but you know what? They're gonna annoy you, and then you're gonna give it right back. Where when you start applying that belt, I mean seriously, and that's what it is. They ain't telling you to kill them, but just look, and you'll see the difference. You'll see the difference, and that's what it was with me. I mean, my mom was real. She was real stern, and you know, street lights come on, and we lived in 318, and I would be all the way down by 501, and she screamed out that window, and if I didn't hear it, friends would come. Your mother screamed, calling your name out that window, and you had to get there. And that was just rules to apply by. And just like now, I mean, without a presence, like you got coaches that's father figures. You got people in the streets. You know, there's a lot of people out there that's willing to give you good advice, and that's what you go with. And I definitely instill that in my kids. I'm like, because a lot of times, especially when I'm coaching, especially coaching your own child, is a struggle, because it's like the Winslow, the TV dad. I'll tell them one thing, but somebody will tell them the totally same thing that I said, and they'll listen to that, but they won't listen to me. So it just surround people, good people around you, and just village. I preach that. Like everybody, like I said, if my kid's doing wrong, let them have it. Like, you know what I mean? Let me know what's going on. I got eyes everywhere. I tell them all the time. I got eyes everywhere. They'll be in 4th Street Park. Somebody called me. They ain't do nothing, but they over there where something about to happen. Tell them to come home. I don't want to say nothing to them. No, go ahead and say something to them. I'm gonna call them though, but go on and say something to them. Tell them to get out of here. As long as they not doing, if they in the wrong space, get them out of there. And that's it. Like, you know what I mean? We can't sit there and think that it can't be yours. You gotta always take it into consideration. Like, look, all right, you know what? Where you at? What you doing? And that's basically what it is. Everything I preach, village, takes a village.
Thank you. My last question is for you, JR. What advice, if there were one piece of advice, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I know that's a tough one. I saved it for last.
Your brother was right.
Actually, I'll say this. So, this was right before I committed to the University of Hartford. I was actually in the car with my brother. And his exact words to me was like, look, don't worry about home, go take care of yourself. And I look back at that situation because every step of the way, that's what I remember. In order for me to help anybody, I gotta make sure I accomplish something, right? Because then that next person has something to look up to, right? So it was tough. That was the toughest thing that I had to kind of like let go, because my family is my everything. Everything I do is for my family. So it's like when he said that to me, it kind of stuck to me, right? And I would say that, like, tell my younger self, like, listen, I wish I would have known that when I was 10 years old, right? Because when I was a bad kid and fighting my sisters, getting expelled from school, I look back at those things like, man, like, it was dumb, right? It was dumb. But it's like, that conversation I had with my brother in the car is something I live by. And like, if I was to tell you, like, listen, man, like, focus on you. Don't worry about what's gonna make this person happy, that person happy. Focus on you and try to reach as high as you can, because what's gonna happen is when you get there, you're gonna look back like, holy cow, this is where I'm at right now, and then you can bring somebody along. But if you try to, goes back to what Kayla said, like, if you try to fit in, that'll pull you down, right? Because everyone is battling, right? So especially when you're young, man, like, reach for the stars, keep reaching, and keep reaching. But when at each level, try to pull somebody up with you and try to empower them and inspire them to know, like, man, like, you can do it, you know, you can do it.
Thank you.
Wow, what an evening. You guys are great. I want to take just a moment before we hand out some things. I've got some of my wonderful board members here, Mr. Aaron Lewitt. With us. And you get 2 for 1 on this one. You get one of my great board members and the city council member, Michael Russo. And Commissioner Romano, you're always here. Thank you.
Director, you forgot Board of Education member, Shatali Khan.
Welcome. Great to see you. We are all here for each other, right? I mean, what you were saying, use these fine people, right? Use me, use them. Frank Merchant, our Director of Management, here, use us, because we can bring a lot to the table for you. We've got such grace and wisdom here. I was in this room a few days ago celebrating somebody's 80th birthday. Fanny! Fanny! But great stuff. So, thank you all for being here. Would you like to say anything, folks?
I'd just like to say, for me, I think
Wow.
that we feel the same way. Everything that you were echoing is important. This is family. Both my grandmothers were from the PJs. My aunt played ball down here, commanded the 2nd precinct down here, and there is a sense of family, and contrary to what many people may think, and we're all of the immigrant experience. I'm 2nd generation myself, that they didn't speak English, and we all have a kindred spirit here. And you can feel always, when I came into Fanny's party the other day, the warmth that I felt and the love. It was amazing, and I've really, seen a room full of packed people, and to see the young people up there, Julio, I know well, Coach, you said it best. It's called discipline. It's not called beating your child, it's called discipline. My father hit me for, I locked his keys in his trunk, he whacked me. So many different things. And to you, amazing, your experience and how you spoke and where you are at and some of the things that you said that make sense. But God bless and all of you that are here. We're here for you and anything that we can do to help you in your experience. It's always enjoyable to support you and the team and Julio and the family and your mom. She plays softball with us still. We can't get her out anymore though. But again, thank you and thank you for what you do. You're the future and we're here to support you. Anything we can continue to do. Mike.
The only thing I would add is, I mean, and really echo, family and community is and has been everything in my life, right? It will continue to be. We'll continue to build our family because everyone in this room is family, right? Hoboken has always been that way, and you've heard it from all up there on that stage. It's the most important thing for me, and it really drives what I want to do and how I want to do that in the city of Hoboken. The one thing I would want to add, though, is that most of the people from Hoboken that have lived in Hoboken for a long time in a very different time, a very in a lower socioeconomic stage of their life. What we have never realized is that that is a most powerful tool for us, because being uncomfortable our whole lives has become such a tool, because as you are uncomfortable and you get comfortable being that way, you overcome those adversities in a lot quicker ways, a lot quicker. So it's something that I strive to always remember, and always remember that someone always had it a little bit worse than I did. But we overcame things together, and it's always good to see friends here and friends coming back and giving back to our community, because that's what's most important, community and family. It always will be.
I can't help just that inspiration. Craig, come on up. This is the inspiration. My son, who's 30, he just graduated from Rutgers. Yay! You made me remember being called into his high school to the principal's office, and my walking in, and he was as drunk as could be, throwing up into the principal's wastebasket, right? And now he's graduated. Now he's made it, right? So we've all got to love each other, and I loved him, but we did our discipline, and we stood by him, and we got him through that rough patch, right? And Lord knows, as I tell my kids, I was always a perfect child. Right? Yeah. But I had people to support me as well. So you're just such an inspiration. So I'll hand it back to Craig, because I better get talking.
I have to leave for the Elk Veterans Ceremony.
I love you.
Thank you all.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. And you know what? Give a big round of applause to yourself, to all the family members. So now this is the time to hand the certificates, and I'm going to call Miss Margie to help me in that task. So the first name that I am going to call is Jason Blanks. And Kayla Ferment. So this is the second generation of Hall of Fame inductees from the Hoboken Housing Authority. And the buffet is open. We have food and refreshment for everyone. Thank you for coming.